Well, all of you who are able to join, welcome. I think we'll have some more people here soon. I'm not sure what's going on with my email, but welcome to our third this year. Let's Talk Caregiving Roundtable. Family conversations are the topic today. And that can be a great many things. So bringing us all together, I thought was very important for this particular session. We are recording this, so if you would like to not be recorded, you're welcome to turn off your camera. But it does help for interactions and conversations to be able to see one another. We are sponsored by AARP Georgia. They have allowed us to make this complimentary every time we do it. We record it so that those who aren't able to be with us are still able to participate in some way, shape, or form. And I know Kay Sabetta from AARP Georgia is trying to log in now, so hopefully she will be with us very soon. And here's my contact information, although I think all of you have that already for any future needs. Welcome, PK.
Hey, good to see everybody. All those smiling faces. I swear, Michelle, you have the most beautiful smile.
Well, thank you, PK. It's
Just
good to
beautiful.
see you.
Just makes me almost feel like I have dimples.
Folks are having some issues logging on, so we may get some more people here in a little bit. I've sent out several emails over the last 2 days, and it appears that some people got them and some didn't.
Yeah, I had a little trouble logging on, so I'm on my phone. So
Okay.
I understand completely.
Oh, here we go. More people are joining us. Well, let's start with a brief introduction from everybody. Ronnie, would you like to start for us?
That'd be fine. Hello,
right.
PK. Good to see you again.
Oh, good to see you too, Robert.
It's Ronnie. I'm sorry.
I mean, Ron, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
I just got over a COVID case and my COVID brain is really nasty.
Well, I'm Ronnie Ogletree, and I started an organization up here last August called the Appalachian Aging Resource Network to have resources and information for the aging population in the 6 counties that we cover. And once I started that, we've got some membership organization, and it's growing, and we've put together a rack card. Gwyneth has seen it, and it is a great opportunity because we put those rack cards in the discharge papers, packets at the hospitals, plus give it out to all the assisted living facilities and so forth that our marketing people cover.
Ronnie is a connector of people and services, and he and I have been talking a great deal recently.
Oh, good.
Well, we're very glad to have you with us. Thank you so much.
I
Michelle.
appreciate it.
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Bolden, and kind of wear a couple of different hats. I'm the owner for Home Helpers of North Atlanta, which we provide in-home personal care. And I also founded a nonprofit called Call for Caring. And so our goal is to support family caregivers through education and resources. So we've connected a few times with Second Wind Dreams. We recently started a podcast, and PK and Gwyneth were on our premiere episode, and it is doing very well. And so the podcast is for family caregivers, and the goal is to educate them and provide resources that they can use immediately. So we're getting great responses from that. We also have an expo. We're having an expo this year. It will be virtual and in person, an outdoor venue in the Atlanta area. And so you're welcome to register for that event. Also join our podcast. It'll be every Tuesday at 3 o'clock. We release a new episode. And you can hear PK and Gwyneth. Their episode is out there as well.
Thank you, Michelle. It was great fun to be on your podcast. And thank you for letting us be your first one.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Kay is here. The ARP will be having one coming up as well on Tuesday. I think your episode airs on Tuesday.
Thank you. Tiffany.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Tiffany Hooks. I know Gwyneth for a really long time. She used to be my manager. We used to work for nonprofit Senior Connections, but I've been in this industry for some time now, 10, 12 years. Right now, I'm the Director of Operations for Remkicks Healthcare Services. So we provide in-home care, but we also have an adult day. It's in Decatur, and we provide adult day health services for about 120 seniors around DeKalb County.
Wonderful. It's nice to know where you are too. This is a treat.
Right.
Darlene.
Hi, I'm Darlene Myers. We're in Valdosta, Georgia, under the Valdosta State University. We have a day program that's currently closed, and we're contemplating when to reopen again, and how we're going to do that for Alzheimer's patient, mild and moderate. We also have an educational program, which is the part that I do, where was educational / support group for the caregivers. We've already had one meeting, and we're planning to have another meeting because caregivers are still calling and they want that assistance. So that's what I do.
Wonderful. Thank you for being with us. BK.
Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad everyone's on the call today because we are at such a difficult time for caregivers, winter coming up and everything. And I want to say, Tiffany and Darlene, thank you for saying adult day and not adult day care. That's just one of those pet peeves. When we say daycare, it sort of adds to the stigma. I'm founder of Second Wind Dreams. We're almost 25 years old in January, and creator of the Virtual Dementia Tour. And I'm thrilled to be here. I was a full-time caregiver of my father for 17 years. The last 4 years, he lived with us in our home. And as some of you know, he just passed away 6 weeks ago. And so I'm going through that whole caregiver morass of finalizing things, and just sent a check out this morning. That's why I was a little bit late, plus getting logged in. It's hard. It's hard. And caregivers need help after that loved one is gone. Very
They
much.
do. Transitioning into
Yeah.
the next phase of life and your next purpose is so important.
Really, Gwyneth.
And we should do a roundtable dedicated to that, because I don't think it's something that's talked about enough.
Yeah, I agree. I feel sort of alone, lost is what I should say. I feel lost because I don't have him, and I don't have that responsibility anymore. And I'm not real sure what I should do except just sit, and which is okay too. I know that's okay too. Mourning takes time.
It does.
I know I need to take my turn, but I'm with her. My mother passed the day before Mother's Day, and I was crying for that this morning, exactly. And I had the same feelings, what to do when you were doing so much. And it's hard, and people don't understand. I say, oh, I need to go, and then I realize.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, let's plan a roundtable where we can specifically address that, because it isn't something that gets the attention. We focus on, well, the loved one is still with us, and we need to be more comprehensive for our caregivers. Thank you both. Kay, my partner and friend.
I don't know, you might have to ditch me because I I was not on my game today. It's just so much. There's the Livable Communities Conference plus my regular responsibilities. Case better with AARP Georgia. I want to give my condolences to our friends and colleagues on the call, PK and Darlene, and anybody else who I missed before I got on. My heart and prayers and thoughts are with you. I'm so sorry for your loss. I can't even imagine. It's tough. But I'm here, and I sent the Zoom link to a couple of people. I hope they'll join us. So forgive me.
No, there was some confusion. I sent out emails, Kay, and they didn't reach people. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but we are recording, so I'll make sure that this gets out to everyone.
Yeah, the universe. God's in control.
Most definitely.
Thank you for having me. Yes, I jumped off our Livable Communities conference so I can hang out with you guys, because it's like this week is one of those like back to back to back, and I thought I slipped when the email from somebody said I didn't get the email link, and I thought, oh my God, I forgot to do that last night, and then I'm looking and it's like, oh no.
I'm so sorry.
But Sarah and you saved me, so.
Excellent.
Partners.
Yes, most definitely. Well, thank you. And thank you for your sponsorship of this so that we can continue to bring these types of conversations out.
Yes, yes. I can't believe we're getting to our fourth quarter. And I know we'll be talking soon so we can continue this for 2020, because I think it's really needed. And
absolutely. And it's such a pleasure. I learned so much from everybody on these calls, and that helps me to think about our organization. So I'm grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie.
Hi, everyone. I was actually off today, but I did not want to miss this call. So I'm leaving a doctor's appointment. So that's why I'm on my phone. But my name is Carrie. I work at the Rosalind Carter Institute for Caregivers. I am also a program manager for our Dealing with Dementia program, which I am the master trainer. I train other trainers to deliver our program, and that program is designated to caregivers. And also, I head up our Georgia CareNet, which is our Georgia Caregiver Network. So that's the acronym for it. We meet quarterly as well. And basically what we do is we partner with other organizations and we discuss, different resources that are going on that we can, that we are able to offer caregivers, not only within their area, but all over the state of Georgia. They're housed in the AAAs across the state of Georgia. What I'm working on right now is we are preparing for our virtual Caregiver of the Year event, where caregivers receive a personal note from Mrs. Carter, $1,000 that they can use to do whatever with, gift baskets, a gilded rose, and Senior Link is our sponsorship for this year for the Caregiver of the Year award. So that's what I'm working on, and also working on getting thank you videos in from everyone. So if you would like to know more about that, just please email me. But November is Caregiver Month, so I thought it would be a neat idea for caregivers to see other caregivers thanking them, and also family members thanking someone in their family for taking care of their aunt, uncle, mom, dad, or sister. Just sending a 30-second thank you video that we want to highlight during Caregiver Month in November and post all on our social media channels. So that's something that I'm working on as well to get that together. And thank you guys for having me again. I love this.
We're always happy to have you with us, Carrie. It's a pleasure. I'm so glad we connected.
Yes.
Joyce. Joyce, we'd love to have you introduce yourself if you're able to unmute.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Joyce. I have a sister. Well, I have two sisters suffering with Alzheimer's. One lives out of the state. One lives here, and she has 4 daughters, and they take turns, during the day going over to help out because their father had a stroke.
Oh,
And he's not, you know, that able to look after his wife. So the daughters go over and my sister and I go over when they have a conflict with their schedules because they're all working ladies, and some can work from home and sometimes they have to go out of town. So my sister and I stay available to fill in whenever there's a gap, or to just go over and give her husband a time to be by himself or whatever, take her somewhere, bring her to our house, take her somewhere, do something so that he can get some time to himself or whatever he wants to do. And usually he doesn't want to do anything but just be there by himself. So give him that privilege to give the girls time to do some of the things that they want to do and don't worry about her care. So that's my role as a caregiver.
well, thank you so much for what you're doing. It means so much to your family, but also to our system, our healthcare system, and our networks. Without people like you, this falls apart. So thank you very much.
Mhm.
Bonnie Davis.
Hello, I'm here. Really, I just wanted to, as I am right now, be in the background to hear the conversations about caring. A couple of weeks ago, I was actually a guest on a podcast that was titled Caring for Aging Parents. I am actually an author, a writer. I write primarily, I have been writing technical publications, but now I'm writing non-technical. So anyway, I was on this panel. I'm also a certified aging in place specialist, certified senior advisor, and I also teach classes for the seniors real estate designation course. But anyway, I was on this panel and I was talking to these people, but it wasn't really about caring as I thought it was caring. It was more support because they sent me questions in advance, and it was really about getting parents prepared with wills and insurance and things that you do as you walk through the process. And so I asked them, please, you know, that's when you think of caring, that's a whole different arena. And so I focused on support along the way. Now I have within my family been very involved over the years, starting about 30 something years ago with my mother when she was ill, and my sister and I alternated on caring for her. I in Georgia and my mother and sister in Birmingham. Fortunately, my sister was a nurse, so she was really, really good. And my mother always said, where is Marion? I obviously wasn't a good caregiver, but anyway, and through the years, I have been involved with older family members, older sisters and brothers. My siblings were a lot older. I'm the baby. I had siblings 21, 20, 17, and 16 years older. So I have grown older with them. And recently, a sister passed away in Birmingham, and she and I were always together as we went through these things. So I have been grieving tremendously because she is not here with me anymore. That I find that just, And anyway, so from many different levels, I am definitely a specialist in aging, not a specialist in caregiving, although I have gone through the experience. So I want to hear you guys. I want to hear so I can communicate better with people, particularly when they ask me to talk on this subject.
Well, we're pleased to have you, and my heart is with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Williams.
Excuse me, may I say one more thing?
You may.
The book that I have just published, and it's on Amazon, it's Getting Old and Getting Over It, sort of. So that's my first. I'm doing a series of books about aging, and that first one is a lighthearted book, but it is available. I just want to make that point. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Dr. Williams.
Yes, hi. It's good to be on the session as well. Thank you all. A lot of good information. I am a caregiver and in the process of conducting research for veterans program as well as university that I'm attending for a postdoctorate in gerontology. My goal is to officially set up a personal care home or personal care service for adults 18 and older that has any type of disability or senior citizens or disabled veterans. And so I've been attending a lot of the sessions just to, get background information, conducting additional research to help me along the way. So thank you all so much for the good information, and I'm looking forward to the session today.
Thank you so much. Well, let's dive in. And so if you didn't receive my email, you probably haven't received the questions. So I will read them to you as we go. The first one is, what are the components of communication? And I actually mean two things by that. So what, if you're going to flow chart how communication works, what does that look like? But then what is communication? What are the different ways that we communicate? What are y'all's thoughts there?
Verbal.
Yeah.
Verbal, absolutely.
Listening.
Listening, absolutely.
Written or correspondence.
Written correspondence, very good.
Symbolic.
Symbolic, nice.
Body language.
Body language.
Facial expression.
Facial expression, absolutely. One thing I read today getting ready for this was emotional energy, which I thought was a really interesting way to put that, particularly for someone who may not be verbal. Trying to, and not to sound too hippie about this, but trying to feel their vibe as you're working to communicate with someone.
Hippie is good.
Hippie is good. I'm glad to hear you say that.
Hippie is groovy.
Excellent. What are some other things that we have to think about when we're trying to communicate with someone? What are the pieces?
I would say tone and elevation in your voice, volume.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And when you say elevation, your tone and your volume, but also where you stand next to the person and how you approach them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 6 feet tall, or just a little bit under after my hip surgeries. But if I stand next to someone who's 5 feet tall and look down at them and talk, that could be intimidating. Once you get to know me, it's not. But we have to think about that when we're talking with our care providers, if we have someone coming in, with the person that we're caring for, and also with our family members. So it kind of sets the tone for any communication we have.
I think it's important to know the person that you're talking to's level of functioning. I think so often we communicate in a way that is above the person's ability to comprehend. And then at other stages, we speak in a way that is childish to a person. So I guess what I'm saying is communication can't be a one size fits all sort of a thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Every communication scenario is different. And if I picked up the phone right now to call each of you, we would have completely different conversations, even if I asked you all the same questions. So understanding who that person is critical, no matter who you're talking to or with, rather.
And communication can't be rushed. It has to be, paced, and you've got to get the other person feedback, whether that's verbal or nonverbal, in order to know how to move through the conversation. I think, I know with people living with dementia, we have a tendency to have an expectation that they would respond in an X period of time. And if they don't, then we either fill the silence or we move on to something else. And I think frequently communication can be effective when we just take a moment to sit with it.
Absolutely.
I would also say that an environment adds or takeaways from communication as well. An environment. So where you are, where you're sitting, can also have an impact of how it's received or if it's able to be received as well. An example would be virtual settings versus in person, or in a crowded space versus one-on-one, in a restaurant versus a person's home, in an office versus a physician's office versus someone's home. So I would say that is also a form.
To that point, how the person receives communication is important as well. Do they have a hearing deficit? Or do they have visual impairment? So you could be gesturing all over the place to make a point and it's not received. Tailoring each of those things to the individual that you're speaking with or communicating with.
You know, Michelle, what you just said is incredibly important. We have had people living with dementia who are not in the severe stages actually tell us that that environment piece is so important because they already have difficulty focusing. And even like when a heater turns on, clicks on, they can't focus anymore back to what they were doing. So you can imagine how many times we assume a person doesn't understand what we're talking about or saying, when in fact we've placed them in an environment where it's almost impossible for them to understand. I know my father would get extremely agitated when the grandchildren and great-grandchildren were around. It was too noisy, too much happening, and he would get really agitated, and we would have to take him to his apartment and let him chill for a little while. Well, that's my fault. I should have, made sure that everybody was clear about that, because once a person with dementia gets agitated, it takes a bit of time for them to, for lack of a better word, de-escalate.
I like that too. Absolutely. So we've talked a little bit about the pieces of communication. The sender, the receiver, but then how we communicate, oral, written, body language, emotions, how we see the person is responding to us. And we've talked a little bit about talking with the person for whom we care. What types of conversations do caregivers have to have with other family members around the provision of care? Those can be some difficult conversations to have, and I think helpful to talk through today.
If I can speak on that, I think when you're talking with other family members, I think they should always be made aware of what to expect, especially the family members that haven't saw the person in a long time, the care recipient in a long time, and they're thinking that they're walking back into the same situation they may have walked into, maybe 3 months or even a month from a month ago. So I think conversations about like what to expect when you see whomever you are caring for. Also, time frames. How some family members like to just show up at a certain time or just pop up whenever. But I think it's so important, especially when you have your loved one on a schedule. It is so vital to keep that schedule, because any little thing can throw someone off, especially when you're caring for someone that has dementia. So to me, I think those are some of the two most important conversations to have as far as with your other family members.
Absolutely. Managing those expectations is a difficult piece. And for a family member who may be a distance caregiver, may not be the primary, it's often difficult to perceive what's actually going on the day-to-day basis.
I wanted to add to what Carrie just talked about, because I've experienced this, and I have a few friends that are going through this now. And when you are caring for a loved one and you have siblings or close relatives that is your support network, and what she's referring to, whether they're distant caregivers, etc. Sometimes bringing in somebody from outside the family is helpful. You know, I'm Catholic, happen to be raised Catholic, and our priest was very helpful in kind of being a mediator, because there's there's the family and sibling drama. I'm just gonna put it like that. I think most people understand what I'm saying, where there certain siblings just show up when it's convenient for them, or just say, oh, they'll pay with money, and so the person who has the brunt of doing all of the work, and they're expressing their frustration or needing assistance. Sometimes I think if you're able, get somebody from the outside that the group respects or can be comfortable with hearing, can be a good sounding board and help through all of the noise, because it can be really, you're already overwhelmed, and if you're having this sibling situation or family situation, it's too much for your health.
Family conversations when everything is going great can be challenging enough without adding the caregiving aspect to that. PK actually designed a training for Second Wind Dreams for our certified trainers, so that they can go into the home and provide the virtual dementia tour and do the debrief in person with the family. So that's a really critical thing, whether it's a faith-based support system that you have, a friends and family support system that you have. You may have the best friends that reside around you in your community that can assist with that, or to have someone come in and walk them through with that aspect of training. These are fantastic things. Anyone else have any comments on types of conversations that we have, family conversations around caregiving? That was interesting English.
One of the things that I think is important is I would, second certainly what was said before, but just being able to have effective communication, knowing who's going to be there for that loved one, particularly when you have several people involved. And so if I'm planning something, but I don't know someone else is planning something, and we're supposed to be at Dad's house and there's nobody there today. And so I think that that's helpful. Also, I've seen where siblings are kind of feeling one person isn't doing enough and the other person is doing too much. And you say you're going to be here and you're not there, then I have to change my whole world around. And so for our family, what we recently did was a family calendar, because it got to be a lot challenging for us to keep up with who was supposed to be there for Dad. Is the aide there that day? Do you have an appointment? And so we have one person to manage the calendar. Everybody has access to it, and we put time with Dad. So it doesn't say taking care of Dad, it just says time with Dad, and that person's name is next to it. And so we know that they're there. We know what day the aide is going to be there, which aide will be there. When Dad has an appointment, so we know someone is going to have to take him to an appointment, right? And the days that we're not available, maybe someone wants to go on vacation or just have a night out with someone else. And so we put those things on the calendar, and we actually have our dad to access as well, so he can see who's hanging out with him for the day. And that has kind of helped as well. So I just think that clear communication is important, and it kind of reduces the frustration and sometimes anger among siblings or those on the team.
Planning is such a great way to do that, and you're utilizing technology and ways that we can communicate without even talking as a support. That's fantastic.
My experience with families over the years has been one of the toughest conversations for them is with what I call the ostrich, the family member who lives farther away and doesn't get to see them very often and doesn't think that there's a problem. In fact, thinks everybody's overreacting to what's really going on. Even almost basically treating the main caregivers as though they're lying about what the problem is. And yet they come in and try to undo everything that's being done. And in doing so, creates some pretty heavy duty damage to the family that takes a while to get back to stasis again. So those conversations with the ostriches are painful for family members.
I also think when you're dealing with your main caregivers and family in general, is letting them know that you're dealing with emotions. And so when you're dealing with someone and you're dealing with them in an emotional state, you can't have certain conversations. So you have to understand that sometimes we're trying to explain some things to the family members, or you're trying to explain something to the sister or the brother. And it's when you're dealing with that main caregiver, I think it's letting them know when you're having these conversations, take a minute and understand that just like you have emotions, you're dealing with people in an emotional state. And sometimes you have to back off the conversation and know when it's time to have that, because they can't, sometimes people just can't hear what you're saying because they're feeling too much. Those feelings will block what is heard. And so making sure they understand that so they can, that frustration, hopefully it takes away from some of that frustration. I know I deal with my husband. So at home, I've been doing this for 12 years. And my mother-in-law has dementia. And just trying to get him to understand certain things, he can't hear it. And so I have to step back and realize I'm dealing with his emotions right now. So he won't be able to hear. So I've got to be able to take a step back and figure out how I can get that, when I can get it to him, so that we both can communicate on a regular level where we're not escalated. And that's what the family members have to really understand. You got to take a step back and realize when people are dealing with their emotions, they don't hear things the same way. What lens is that person right now looking through things? So, yeah.
Wow. I have to say that it's amazing because a lot of people don't have that self-awareness of what you're talking about. I commend you for that, because a lot of people don't have that.
I agree with her. I've been working with dementia and Alzheimer's for 10 years now. My mother had dementia. My husband now has 2 sisters that's showing strong signs of dementia. And no matter what I say to him, what to do, it's not working. He's still doing the same things as to trying to reason with one particular sister. Well, she just don't want to do it today. Well, how she's acting. And I just want to just squeeze him and say, haven't you been watching me for 10 years? Haven't you seen what I've had to do? But I'm like you. I just take a deep breath and walk on by.
You know, it's really difficult to hear sometimes the truth, but to get advice, no matter how much experience your loved one has, from someone that's in your own family. I cannot do outreach to my family or my husband's family. We have to have somebody else come in and do that piece because I'm too close to it. No matter what I actually know, I'm too close for them to hear me. So it is nice to have an advocate, whether that's someone from your community or a professional to help with that conversation. And that's something we could do virtually or in person. I know these are interesting times, but that level of support is important.
You're right on that, Gwen. Getting an outside person to come in sometimes does wonders for the family, because they're not going to listen to a brother or sister or a husband or wife. That's why an outsider sometimes has a different approach to the situation.
And deciding who that's going to be and who's accepted amongst the entire group is important as well. The faith community is a great place to start, particularly if you have someone in that community that really has taken the time to get educated on those types of things. But it's different for each family. So it could be a professional, a social worker, someone with the area agency on aging, or someone who's started an organization for aging and wellness. And there's all kinds of resources from Second Wind Dreams, from AARP, from the Alzheimer's Association, and then the expertise I see in front of me on the screen. What are the types of supports that we either have or need to have in our communities to help facilitate these conversations?
Caregiver support group,
Mhm.
AARP, Rosalind Carter Institute.
Rosalind Carter Institute, yes.
All of those need to be in the community offices set up where the caregivers have somewhere to go or somewhere to call. I can't answer all the questions that they ask. I'm it, but I do send them through the internet to do some research. Well, that's hard for some. So when we have our support group, I use the internet as research for them.
I would also say the faith-based communities, organizations, as Kay mentioned, impacted her life. Many times that is a resource that people start with, is the faith-based communities. And then also your primary care physician in that team. Now they're understanding the need to have these resources available for families to be successful. And so they are beginning to have those resources available via a social worker or case manager, or maybe a nurse who has that expertise.
Thank you. That's fantastic. We have so many resources available to us. Here in Georgia, we have quite a few, but across the country, our area agencies on aging are wonderful resources for us. Carrie mentioned CareNets earlier. Here in Georgia, there's a memory net that helps not only the individual who has a dementia diagnosis, but also their family, trying to help them navigate the system. I think partnership between our organizations and the groups on this call and the caregivers who are informing us is important to make sure that that we have access to the education pieces and the support pieces. Any resources anyone would like to tell us about that we haven't mentioned yet?
So I was thinking of how, and I think we've discussed this before, about how, caregiving is cultural, and it's no one size fits all. So, there's in some families, there's a hierarchy, and, there's certain people who can't have these conversations because they aren't comfortable. For instance, bringing in a therapist or somebody with a clinical background. Some communities aren't comfortable with that. They may be comfortable with a rabbi or a pastor or somebody with that training to have this conversation. So I think it's recognizing that, and back to what I think PK mentioned earlier about involving the care recipient. So if the care recipient loves music and art or whatever, trying to put them in that environment to, so that they can somehow thrive, or if it's being out in nature, taking them out on walks to have that conversation, put them in the environment where they're most, they're at their best, that way you get the results that you would like to get, and for them to be engaged. So that's kind of thinking out of the box. Again, it's not, resources for you to go online, but if your loved one loves music, and you can put on their favorite record or song or whatever, and that could be it, and then they're in a good mood for a while.
Piggybacking on getting some of the outside people in on this, do y'all believe that there's a big hole in getting the resources out to the families so that they can take advantage of these things? And to me, a big hole in that is the physician's office. I don't understand why. Gosh, I'm all over the place, but why when you're in a doctor's office with your loved one and the attending can tell that you're having struggles, and you're talking a little bit about the struggles, not hopefully in front of your loved one, but it's still happening. I mean, physicians aren't stupid, they can see that. Well, why don't they have at their fingertips a way to, put that sweet daughter or son in touch with people like you guys? Because they're not going to automatically know to do that.
I think
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, PK. One of the reasons as far as about the physician office, what I have come to learn with working in this field, a lot of them are privately owned. And so a lot of the physicians, which has always been crazy to me, they don't allow outside resources to be placed in their offices. And sometimes they don't allow their attendees or nurses or nurse practitioners to provide that information. They don't make it a requirement. And I had to learn that with my grandmother when she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and when we were taking her to her appointments, the same thing happened to us. And we asked, it was like, is there any outside resources that can help us? And the only thing that we were ever told was go to your local area agency and they'll be able to find you the resources. And that was it. And I was shocked behind that as well. And even with trying to put flyers in physician with dementia workshop, or something else may be going on in the community that we want to share so people can have access to it, it's been very difficult. A lot of them won't allow us to put flyers or anything as far as resources to help caregivers out in their offices.
That's horrible.
Well, but I think what we're doing is essentially trying to change this narrative, because here's what the reality is. And I do apologize for being late, because we're putting out fires every day here in the city of Chicago in all this nice cold weather. But one of the things that we're doing working here at the City of Chicago Department of Family and Support Services is really promoting and educating the public, because youth does not last long. I know it seems like it, but if you're lucky, you too will get to be a senior. And so because as our country is aging, we're starting to realize the need that we have for this kind of awareness. So we're starting a number of campaigns, outreach activities that will specifically target, like we're talking about, and establishing relationships with medical institutions and facilities, because you're only going to talk about what you know about. And not only that, But I know right now, and this is, you know, the 21st century, everything is on the internet in an app and all like that. However, you know, and I'm a senior, so I'm not going to speak for all seniors, but I mean, I will use Facebook, but Instagram loses me. So we still need to have this information disseminated in a more uniform and concerted way through all the different media outlets that are available. Elders tend to still listen to the radio. We actually watched the news. So why not use all of these different opportunities that are available to us to get this word out? And it's just like most of us know the melody or the words to Don't Worry, Be Happy. We don't know if we like this song, but you've heard it enough, you can hum along. So we want to make having this kind of information as readily available as the lyrics to this song. Because if, you know, all of us had a mom, all of us had a dad somewhere. And I just wanted to comment too. I just was really listening to the comments everyone mentioned. And myself, I am licensed as an occupational therapist, but it didn't mean anything when we were dealing with my mom, because my elder brother, I mean, professor that he is, lived in Wichita and we're still in Chicago. And he was all up for a number of procedures, which my mother would not have allowed, you know, on her worst day. And so again, but what also happens is all of those childhood roles, you know, oh my gosh, did it kick in? And so I really liked what the other gentleman said. Having that outside objective person come in really helps kind of maintain, you know, the family harmony, because this is not the time for everyone to be on their bad behavior and have tantrums. So, but it also means that using services like what we offer at our department under senior services, having caregiver counseling, one-on-one, family counseling, being able to support these caregivers, having opportunities for respite that people know maybe you just need an hour to make it through the next week, you know. So any way that we can find to share this information, and we get a lot of reinforcement from the agencies that we're already familiar with, Aarp, ACL. So I really feel that regardless of where we're situated in the country, the bottom line is everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to be safe, and that includes our elders, you know, regardless of presentation of symptoms and diagnoses, because we're more than just those things. We're still human beings deserving of love and affection and protection and appreciation. So that is our commitment here, certainly with the City of Chicago and the Department of Family and Support Services. And I know that's the commitment of everybody who's on this panel, on this program right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Oh my.
We are getting close to the end, and I know we started late, so I am perfectly happy to stay with you for any additional conversation. I will not cut anyone off, but I also don't want to abuse anyone's time.
I have something to say, and
Yes.
Donna kind of mentioned it a little bit. Resources, financial resources. The caregivers need quality caregivers that will be able to come in the home, that understand what's going on and caring. The second part is the financial part. Finances is the hardest part that people don't realize how much it helps to have the monies to pay for someone to come in. I now help care for my cousin. Her son was a pro football player. He is financially able to pay for services, but he has 3 family members and maybe 6 family members that come in every day just about to see about her for free. He gives us a stipend every now and then just to say thank you, because he doesn't live here with his mother. He lives in Atlanta and he drives from above Gwinnett to come to Valdosta to be with her, to help her and his dad out. He can do that, but I meet so many other caregivers that cannot do that. And they try to get services to do it, but by the time the services, and this is my beef again, they say we do that, but when they come into the home, they say we don't do that. We do this, but we don't do that. It's like a person that cleans house. We clean house, but we don't do windows. The most important part that needs to be done. So I love people raising money, but I really wish they were focused on finding funding that can go in the hand of the caregiver to pay for the care receiver.
Thank you so much. And we are recording this, so I will be passing this along to some of the organizations that do have funding to help with caregiver support so that they understand what we've been talking about. I didn't mean to cut you off, Ronnie.
In there a program that pays for caregivers to take care of, well, a child to take care of his mom and dad? In there a program out there? I think they have to be Medicaid eligible, but I think there's a program out there that pays for these kids to take care of their mom and dads.
Yeah, it definitely is. You have they have a structured family caregiver program.
Right.
That's one program that does, and then your oh gosh, it's slipping my mind right now. It's another program, and I'm sorry I can't get it, but it does the same thing. And you're right, it's Medicaid. They do pay for these programs. So there's two different programs that will pay for the family members to be caregivers.
But that's not for everybody, because everybody's not. They're not on Medicaid. That's correct. And their finances is a little bit higher that they can't do Medicaid. Mm-hmm. And that's my point for those that fall under that that fall below that umbrella. The gap. There's a gap. Yes. Yes. That gap. Mm-hmm.
And you know, I think in that gap, there is an opportunity for the Medicare Advantage plans to go ahead and start those benefits that were approved from CMS. I think it was as of January 2019. It was in the final rule and supposedly ready to go, but the Advantage Care plans have not started the plans where they're taking care of some personal care services. So we know most of the seniors have access to the Part B or outpatient that will be able to cover for some of these services, just the plans have not started. And so as I was recently talking to a Medicare representative, she said, yes, that's correct. So we need a call to action for people to really start pushing that they begin to do that and hearing the voices of those who are caregivers, because that is a benefit that could easily be implemented for millions of people if they were to go ahead and get that. Even if it's 60 hours a year, it helps. Something is better than nothing, and we build up. But it also takes the cost of some of the nursing facilities, some of the care that they would have that Medicare is currently paying for. So it's a win-win for everyone if we're able to implement that. And I just think we have to be advocates and go ahead and send letters and comments, et cetera, to our parents' Advantage plans or to your own Advantage plans as well to kind of make that happen. The other thing I just want to say about the primary care, now that we're seeing a trend of more things that are related to gerontology, so we're seeing certain groups of practices that focus on gerontology, where they're doing transportation, et cetera, and they're trying to look at that whole person. So to encourage more of those types of practices in the more traditional areas where we have Emory Healthcare or those larger plans to be able to incorporate some of the things that we see that focus on gerontology. Gen Care comes to mind because most people know about it. And so those are folks who are actually trying to focus on not just a part of the body, but the holistic approach of the patient from social to family, et cetera. And so I just think this is a good group to share these thoughts and then hopefully put some things into action as well. That we're advocates and sending letters to congressmen and senators, et cetera, that will make a difference on that. Get off my horse here.
No, thank you so much. Advocacy is so important. I know there's a couple more comments out there. I do want to draw your attention to the chat. All of you, or many of you, have put some really wonderful resources in the chat. Please have a look there and copy those resources as they apply to you. I didn't mean to cut anybody off. Any additional thoughts or comments Thank you all so much for today. It's been really marvelous.
I had two things I wanted to add. Something that I did put in the chat is the AARP Fraud Network. I put that in there because I think it might have been Darlene who mentioned this about financials and how it's so critical to the caregiver and the whole caregiving responsibility. The other thing is the fraud and scams. I mean, even I don't mean to be negative, but it's the reality that even with the pandemic, we have these criminals, just they're relentless. And the caregiver is already overwhelmed and can be vulnerable to these predators. So please check out our AARP Fraud Network and report this, when something like this is happening. Sometimes it's within our own family, so there's the shame and we cover that up, etc. But it's important that people know where to go to get the resources. And the second thing I wanted to share, Doug Hooker, who's the executive director for the Atlanta Regional Commission, was one of our panelists yesterday for the AARP Livable Communities Workshop. And this year's theme was, why it's good to engage older adults in our communities. And he talked about an example that the ARC is doing in regards to their services and how they had to pivot with home delivered meals. We, as a caregiver, we're signing up or doing all of these resources and signing up our loved ones for home delivered meals, etc. But some of our family members have a cultural palette, and specifically he talked about the Center for Pan-Asian Services, and I've worked with them. I think Gwyneth and most people on this call have, and they are our lead community partner in the Asian American community. So those home delivered meals that are Americanized, these elders were like, I can't eat this, this is not working for me. And they came up with a strategy and a vendor to provide meals that were culturally, for lack of a better word, appropriate for their elders. So recognizing that too, and giving them the food that they enjoy, that goes a long way. I think it also contributes to their health and wellness. And that's it. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I am happy to report that we will have a series of videos available to everyone who's participated in this or any of the calls, and you're welcome to share them with your friends and colleagues. This series of videos is dedicated specifically to the topic of communication. PK will be one of our speakers for those videos. We have friends from Tools for Life that are talking about assistive technology and communication, as well as friends from the Gerontology Institute at Georgia State, talking about communication and aging. And I will get those links out to you as soon as possible. They'll come to you during October. And then our next roundtable is in November. We'll be talking about caregiving and the holidays and the needs that come up there. It is obvious that we need to have the caregiver transition roundtable as well. So that will become part of what we do going forward in the next year. I put my email in the chat in case anyone would like to talk about anything. I am here for you, and I'm very grateful that everyone was on the call.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Gwyneth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be safe.
Thank you all. Very good information.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me sit in.
We're very happy to have you.
Thanks, Gwyneth. See you soon, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Gwyneth, I'll be sending you an email on several subjects to get your information, get some advice on and so forth. So
I look forward to it.
This was great. I got a lot of information and a lot of things that I want to incorporate into our network.
Well, thank you. We'll continue to do these and get people together to share information.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.